Welcome to YellBRo. I am Jordan, and today we're going to talk about political learning for dummies. But first, please do not forget to share, support, and hopefully donate to Devon's Journey to Recovery, the Helping Victims of Africom, the Cohen Daly, the Australian boy. Also help out some content creators. Stevie, aka Redneck Economics, Sleepy J, buy him a coffee, please. And optionally, Ali Alexandra. All links in the description box. All right. Put my mouse down for a second. Uh, Now, when I talk about political learning for dummies, I don't literally mean dummies. I'm not trying to say that. I'm just playing off a cheeky play off the words of those books, hammering for dummies, video games for dummies, shit like that. Uh, but I would definitely look back and call myself a dummy back when I first started, looking into things. Uh, so I believe I look at this thing as like a process. And obviously, it goes beyond politics for me, but let's just say politics. Shit. A little weird and awkward today. It is what it is. Uh, so I remember pretty vividly an experience I had uh, when I first started looking into politics. And it was an episode of Democracy Now! That I guess I randomly found on the YouTubes, back when YouTube you could just find shit. Uh, and it was a young man, probably like 19 or 20, and I'm around 19 or 20 at that time. And it was he was telling a story about you know losing family members, losing his house, and if you haven't guessed it yet, it was a Palestinian talking about the Israeli occupation, as they call it. And I remember like fuck, like feeling so bad about that scenario and so bad for that guy that it was like I felt like a duty to tell as many people as I could, right? That was like the initial thought process, like, hey, check this out. And it felt like, the way you feel when you're young like that. It feels like it falls on deaf ears. But it kind of did. But, you know, you're, when you're in that, when you see information like that, it's much different because when I was young, I'm just going to go through my experience. I'm not going to try to tell anyone theirs, but my own experience. When I was younger, uh, it's like I had a sense that there's bad things in the world, right? You can even say I knew there was bad things happening in the world, socially in the world, but I didn't know until like a scenario like that, to where you actually your mind is tuned to engage with a topic like that. So that's like, even though I've heard it, I heard information like that prior to, but because of the mindset I was in already, that it actually clicked. And then that began sort of the journey through, I would call it, existentialism, but a lot of politics is involved with that, which is what I think is right. I'm going to give my form of it, but I think it's the best version of political learning. Uh, Obviously, the first step of someone being ready to actually engage the information, that's a whole nother story, but just talking about political learning when you're already ready to look into it. Uh, so for me, my alarm up. You. Uh, so when you are ready to go through this process, it turns into something I call detective work. Uh, and I think that word works perfectly because of the process itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a scenario, make believe scenario, sort of extrapolate it so you can see the quote unquote political learning aspect of it. So let's take two guys, all right? We'll say one person is a victim, the other person is the perpetrator, right? And the perpetrator is about to murder someone. Like, there's the event, right? There's well, what happened? Well, Palestinian had family shot and killed and kicked off their land by Israeli forces. Like, oh, there's the scenario. In this scenario, it's like, okay, what happened? Well, person A, shotgun, killed person B. Now let's extrapolate there. It's like, not only do you need to see the event, right, and the initial feeling bad for, right, like whatever happened, the event that happens, like this sucks and I don't like it. That's like a starting point. And from there, you start doing the more detective analytical work, which is, okay, there's the body, there's the trajectory of, okay, the bullet had to come from this direction. Okay, here's the caliber of the bullet, so it had to come from this type of gun. Okay, who has access to these type of guns? And, right, and then you start, like, okay, well, who's the person shooting? Okay, now I have a name for this person. What, then you start adding motives, social motives. Oh, he is robbing him or something. Like he has, like the person getting shot, the victim has money. The person who's shooting does not have money, and the person that is shooting wants the money. And you can do like a typical, just normal social uh, analysis. Surface level psychoanalysis. Like, oh, this person wants money, or maybe they're not even poor. Maybe they're just greedy. Oh, maybe they're greedy or whatever. Uh, but then even underneath that is like, okay, what drives the greed in the first place? And that's kind of where I sit today as far as analysis. So if you see that, you can kind of the reason why I like laid that little scenario out there is because I truly believe that within the microcosm, you can see the macrocosm, see the whole in the part. So when I take Palestinian young man, right, and okay, here's the event, here's the scenario, here's what happened to him. Okay, I feel bad. Like, this sucks. I don't like this. How does this happen? And it's like, okay, well, here's the people who perpetrated on the guy. Okay. All right, let me break it like this. All right, here's the victim. Here's the guy, right? The Palestinian kid. There's the guy. There's the victim. The bullet and the gun would be the event that happened to him, like a literal bullet being shot at his family members, or a bulldozer knocking his house down so that more Israeli settlers can, they're expanding territory, right? There's the bullet and gun. Okay, what's the motive behind it? You look at the circumstances surrounding it, both past and potentially future, right? Because you can kind of project of like, if this is the motive, if this is the social motive, right? Then I can kind of see where they might want to go based on what I've seen where they've went already. So you could say something. I'm not going to try to make it too complicated, but something like they want to expand territory, right? They want Palestinians like off of the land so that they just have the entire region for themselves. The Israeli government. And it's like, okay, that's kind of like I'm doing like a social psychoanalysis, like, oh, okay, I see that motive. Oh, it makes sense in a way, like greed or, you know, security, fearful security, something like that. But then you got to dig underneath that process. And that's when it sort of enters a territory to where I cannot I cannot go there as a detective unless I've been there about myself or within myself. Now I can actually see the actual driving factors. At least I hope I can. That's my process, at least. You know, I would hope I could see the actual drivers now, right? Uh, let's say we find out the motive is, well, they want security. Okay, well, why do you want security? I want security so I can survive. Oh, you mean inhale, exhale? Yes. Oh, okay. You want to physically, biologically, materially survive. Okay, well, why do you want to survive? I want to survive to enjoy the pleasures of life or, the experiences of life, to experience life itself. Then you dig a little deeper and it's like, okay, well, what is your idea of experience? Now, if we're dealing with someone who could be, this is where the psychology comes in, very heavily comes in, because it's like, oh, okay, well, what if we're dealing with a psychopathic person or just a average everyday person, who just wants to, like, I want to just spend time with my family, but I can't if I think bombs are going to go off or something. I can't be content to focus on the survival aspect, to focus on the living aspect, the experiencing aspect. A lot of times it's psychopathy with these guys. Seems like they'll create scenarios where shitty things happen. That's like all governments, it seems like. Uh, but yeah. Now, even though I summed that up, right, that process very quickly, that took me, think of a very, 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 very slow version of that. Of, right, I look at the incident of the Palestinian boy, and then you start studying all these things, all these circumstances around it, right? Because if I want to not have this happen again, I have to understand how it happened, right? All the historical context, and you got to go back and watch fucking Chomsky versus I kept my underwear on Dershowitz, right? And you got to listen to some Norman Finkelstein or who, right? Historians or people who debate on these topics on both sides, not just follow Noam everywhere. Like, no, like, hear all sides of it. Like real detective work, really looking at when information is in front of you. Uh, right, you got to get all that fucking context, all that history, not only to understand where it's been, but also possibly where it's going. And once you start picking up on names and places and things like that, it's like, okay, now let me start, because the people are driving this, right? That's dumb guy logic as it gets. Clearly, person A did something here to cause event B to happen. It's not just things just happening on their own, right? There's people doing these things. So you have to look at the characters of what's happening with the people here, and you can find out there's quote unquote heroes and villains and super villains and innocent motives, but they fuck up and make a mistake. All these little nuances of a person come into play, and then you have to look underneath the nuances. And in order for me, I'm talking about my process and how this took me years to piece through, and you know, who knows if I'm correct about the external. I know I'm correct about me, but about the external world, I could be wrong. But I think this is the process. Underneath, to find what's underneath the rocks, what's underneath the social nuances, right? Or even the on the surface egotistical, nuances of it. Underneath that is when there's no more it's no more Dick Cheney's evil. There's no more Netanyahu's evil, because now you look within yourself and you find out, like, oh, if I'm human and they're human, I can look at something within me and see it in them. Maybe the way they behave, or I can get a glimpse of it. Thus, I can potentially find a solution with that. Uh, and not only that, it transverses to all the topics, all of them. From you think you think I'm joking? I'm not. Forget about just politics. It goes any genre of life you want to dig into. Now you can you can look for the underpinnings of it, and I think you would be able to see the underpinnings. I truly believe I can. No one's really proven me wrong about it yet. I'm waiting. Now, once you see those underpinnings, then you realize something that is quite astounding. And it's like the things that people complain about in politics is quite literally everywhere, because it's kind of fractal. Within the little part, you can see the whole of it. You can see the bigger thing in the smaller thing. Pause. I truly believe I can see that. I think others can do that as well. In fact, I hear it sometimes. Like I hear it from people, even though they may not realize they're saying it. But it's like, hey, that's where the logic kind of follows. There, that's where it kind of goes. Uh, so I can. This is why I do silly videos, like the Atlanta Braves winning the World Series. A-Town down. Or I could do like when I went on Convo Couch. I'm gonna use Call of Duty as my topic. Like this is what I mean. Like I can pick any fucking thing I want to, pull that little part to the side and show you the bigger thing. I can show you the whole of it. You know, the best of my ability. I try my best to show that, but I definitely believe it's there. I definitely believe it's there. I can't say I'm going to explain it the best, but I'm very sure it's there. So this is why I don't, you'll hear me when I'm talking. I'm rambling at this point, but this is why you'll hear me not be so shy about drama. I'd be like, need to get past the drama and focus on the real stuff. Like, since when, like, since when does human interaction become the small stuff? Like, you don't get as, I mean, granted, a lot of these are, seem like faking personalities, but you get to learn something. You get something from observing the fakeness of the personality to really examine it. Just like me when I was younger and said, yeah, I'm sure there's terrible things happening in the world. And then there's like, oh, fuck. I'm very sure there's terrible shit happening in the world. Right? Where it's like two different fucking vibes right there. You can do that with the drama, Call of Duty, politics, with sports, with anything you fucking want to. Because in that little part, you see my hand right there? In the part, pause, is the whole. Pause again. Looks like I'm measuring dicks and sorry. Uh, that's truly the case. Now, I argue, like, I press people on stuff like this. I'm like, because I don't care what, I think to each one of them, or I don't want to like make it sound like I'm not talking shit about anyone. I'm just saying, like, it seems like all these different people that I interact with, the thing that they're focused on or caring about or talking about in the moment, it, uh, I don't know. It seems like I'm always in not not contradiction. What's the word? Not antithesis. Not like I'm always trying to throw something in, like trying to add this thing in there. So when they say like, "Oh, this political event happened," I'll be like, "Well, seems like a people problem." should look at the people, like really dig underneath the surface there. Because I feel like if you do that, then you can have an account for not just the politics, but also for yourself, for the world around you, for any type of genre, topic, anything. You can freely walk everywhere now. Instead of like, well, I don't know that much about, or instead of being like, oh, well, stupid movies. And the movie guy will be like, stupid politics. And they'll both say, stupid books. Is everyone's, meanwhile, no one sees the relation here. When you, right? If someone says, hey, politics, I'm like, hey, it's also over here. Someone says, hey, over here, or hey, movies, I'm like, well, it's also over here in music. And then it's also in books. And it's also in sports. No, it's also in your relationship with your parents. And it's also here and here and here. It's in modes. Right here, I'm going to tell you my life story. Here it is. This running theme, this underneath the surface thing, the glue that holds the fabric, the glue that holds the fabric of the universe together, the spirit of the universe, whatever frickin' words you want to put on it. So, yeah, this is why I analyze and speak the way I speak, right? Someone gives me one thing, I'm already talking about like, hey, you could do more. I would expect the same back. Just expect an argument. But yeah, that's kind of my process for political learning. Vent, the social circumstances, the motives, and then the underneath the motives. What's motivating the motives, right? Because typically we just get an egotistical version of a motive. Right? Like, well, why do you steal that food? I was hungry. Right? Like, well, there's his motive. He was hungry. Stops there instead of like, oh, wait. You were hungry, but okay, then you were desperate to eat. Oh, so that means you're trying to survive. Okay, well, what do you survive for? Right? All these things connect to each other. There is no quote unquote cause and effect. I think that's a misnomer. I don't even think that's like egotistically I can create scenarios to make it cause and effect, but it's not actually cause and effect. I don't think there's such a thing as that. Because each cause, right, is just an effect from a previous cause, which is an effect from a previous cause, effect from a previous cause, and it just keeps going. And who's to say how much time has existed prior to and after, which means you never reach any end conclusion of cause and effect. Right? You'd have to encompass the entire universe, the beginning and the end of it. If those are even things. I don't even think they are, to be honest with you. What preceded the Big Bang? Pause. All right. That's me rambling about political learning. Please. I don't know. Here, I'll say this. Subscribe if you feel like. If you feel like. And then in the comment section, tell me. Like, do you relate to this process? Like, have you added more to the process? There's plenty of details I'm leaving out, right? Of my whole life. If you ever come talk to me and you ask me, I'll lay out, like, I know this shit like the back of my fucking hand of my fucking process, like detailed, journeyed process, even time periods of when things happen. Because, I was in I don't know state. That state where that state of mind to where you basically put your legs in a pretzel shape and sit like a kindergarten and say, life, teach me. I don't know anything. Everything's in question right now. That's a very important part of the process. That led me like looking at like even dates, numbers, time periods? Is it sort of age of Aquarius or age of Pisces or whatever the fuck? Is that an actual thing? Is it? I don't know. I better pay attention to the dates and stuff if that is the case. Or maybe it's nothing. Maybe there's nothing there. Is there coincidence? Is there luck? Or is it all predetermined prophecy, on and on and so forth? Oh, I don't know. So I need to leave that option open. Important lesson. So you tell me if you have a political learning process, or if this relates to you, or if you think like, hey, okay, I see why Jordan focuses more on the person aspect, because without those underlayered motives or deeper drivers, we don't see the events, the political events play out. They wouldn't be there, right? There has to be a person driving these things, driving these events. Just saying, right? When a meteor hits the Earth, it's not politics, natural phenomenon, or natural disaster, or whatever. Or even calling it natural disaster is humans fucking pasting over it. All right. Maybe we'll just call it natural. But we have to add disaster to it because of how it affects us, which is interesting. Don't forget to share, support, hopefully donate to all the links in the description box. Check them out. If you don't have money, share them. If you do, donate. That's simple. Well, if you feel like, obviously, no one's forcing you. With all that said, give this video, I had to find my mouse. Give this video thumbs down. Take the black pill. No, care about everything. And once you do that, you'll care enough to give this video a thumbs down.
Say you wanna get in.